Great. Hello, everyone. We'll just give it a few moments for people to join our event today. All right. So, hello, everyone, and welcome to today's exciting session on science and government scientists at work, part of the Federal Youth Network's Career Showcase Summer 2025. My name is Sana Abushaban, and before I introduce myself further, I'd like to begin by respectfully acknowledging that I'm here on the traditional unceded territory of the Algonquin and Anishinaabe people. The Algonquin peoples have lived on this land since the time immemorial, and I encourage all of you to acknowledge the land you're on as well. As mentioned, I'm Sana Abushaban, and I'm a strategic engineer advisor at the Canada Border Services Agency and a licensed professional engineer with extensive experience in both the public and private sectors. I am passionate about creating meaningful change and making positive impacts, especially in the STEM community. Over the years, I've worked on advancing the diversity, equity, inclusion across STEM fields, including co-founding the Women in STEM Network at CBSA. I also held key leadership roles in national engineering organizations, advocating for greater representation of women in technology and innovation. In 2024, I was proud to receive the Government of Canada's Public Service Award of Excellence, a highlight of my professional journey. As we move through today's session, please share your comments in the chat and questions by using the Q&A button in the language of your choice. You can vote for questions you'd like by using the thumbs up button. So please be sure to use those. We'll also begin with a quick optional poll to learn more about our audience today. So we'll have a quick icebreaker poll that will pop up shortly. And we'll have questions like, what field or profession do you currently work in? If you could switch to any job within the government for a day, what would it be? What motivates you the most in your career? We'll just give it a few moments. Okay. Oh, wow. Okay. So we have a lot of people here from policy, HR, comms, science. That's pretty cool. So for the question of what could you, if you could switch to any job within the Government of Canada for a day, what would it be? We have intelligence analyst as a popular one, space agency scientist as another popular one. And for what motivates you the most in your career, we have learning and growth opportunities. I agree. And making a difference in communities. That's another great one. Thank you all for participating in this poll. All right, so next slide. We have the agenda overview in the next slide here. So we'll go through the housekeeping items and engagement tips, exploring career paths in the Government of Canada, what do scientists do, qualifications and competencies, and learning from experiences. So there's a lot to go through today, so that you can already tell it's going to be a great session. Here we have a lot of housekeeping items that you probably heard a lot of times throughout a lot of sessions. So first of all, keep your cameras and microphones off for all attendees. The chat is disabled, but we'll use it to share resources with all of you. Please use the Q&A button for questions at any time. Vote for the questions using the thumbs up as mentioned earlier. This session is only in English. but the French session will start at 2:30 today, 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time today, if you're interested in joining that one as well. The session is being recorded today, so and will also be available on the Federal Youth Network YouTube channel within 24 hours. So feel free to rewatch it or share it with colleagues who've missed this session today. The learning objectives. So there's a bunch of learning objectives that we have, such as learning about networking and mentorship opportunities, learning about a variety of career paths available within the federal public service, understanding the qualifications, experiences, and competencies needed to pursue a career within the Government of Canada, especially in science, and understanding typical responsibilities, required skills, the day-to-day realities of professionals working in different public service roles, and many more. So there's a lot of learning objectives. And so next I would like to start with the part that we're all here for. Would like to introduce our panelists. So we're really thrilled to have three incredible scientists and panelists joining us today. We have Nathaniel Newlands. He's a senior research scientist and a team lead data science and omics at Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada. And we have Michelle Holrowski. Michelle Holrowski is a research biologist for the Canadian Grain Commission. And we have Alex Tuin, a science advisor at a Department of Fisheries and Oceans Canadian Science Advisory Secretariat. So let's start by getting to know each of our panelists. So Nathaniel and Michelle and Alex, we're really happy to have you here today. Please introduce yourselves and let us know more about your role and your awesome career journeys.
Thanks very much, Sana. And yeah, it's a great pleasure to be here and speak with everyone today. Thanks for joining. I'll give you a little bit of a background on my career journey, some special highlights, and some takeaways in the next few minutes. So yeah, I work with science and technology in the Department of Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada. And, we're looking as a sort of one of our missions is mitigating and adapting to climate change is a big priority, increasing the resilience of agro-ecosystems. But we also look at the economy in terms of circular economy more broadly, and also accelerating the digital transformation of agri-food. So let's go back to where I started. I did a first degree in math and physics, and then went and did further graduate studies in astrophysics. I was really interested in neutron stars and explaining data that we were seeing here on Earth from those stars. So I, got really interested in explaining nature and looking at nuts and bolts of environmental systems. I then decided, okay, might as well keep going. So I did a doctorate at the University of British Columbia in Vancouver on resource management and environmental studies. I really saw the environmental field as one area where it was very interdisciplinary. You could enjoy working with people of all kinds of different backgrounds. And a lot of the problems were open problems. They hadn't been solved yet, right? They're really challenging problems. So that got me excited. I did some further work, postdoctoral work in applied mathematics, got really interested in spatial ecology, and then said, okay, now I got to look for a job, right? So I said, okay, let's do some teaching. I got a teaching opportunity in mathematical programming at UBC. And then, it sort of came to me that really what I enjoyed in a job beyond my education was collaborating with people and not so much competition for resources, that kind of thing. I wasn't into huge grant writing, but I definitely have learned to do that along the way. I love research as well. I wasn't so much into teaching all the time. I love teaching, but not all the time. So research is my game, and very much enjoyed my career thus far with the department as a government scientist, and I've gone up the different levels. And so the way it works is a lot of times you're working on local or regional issues, not always, but and then you progress to more national as a national expert, and then even internationally. So I do a lot of work internationally at the current time. And then you can get involved in all kinds of different global activities. So I'm a co-chair with the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations. We're looking at climate adaptation with nature-based solutions, some of you might have heard of. I'm also the incoming president of a statistical society for environmetrics or environmental statistics. So I really enjoy complex sort of wicked problems, and I think the beauty of what I enjoy in my job is I can do all kinds of different studies related to agriculture. So we're looking at artificial intelligence and models that can predict, tell us, sort of give us foresight and provide foresight for farmers. And that uses a lot of statistics and looking at historical data and patterns in data. Doing some fun work and field work in the vineyards here in the Okanagan, looking at heat stress and climate adaptation to such heat stress events. Also then, beyond all that, looking at quantum computers, because I'm drawing from my physics background, working with other experts in digital agriculture. We're looking at what is the future of quantum computing and how it's relevant to agriculture. Okay, enough about me. Moving on to special moments. A few things that I've really enjoyed in my career. I was part of a team, a collaborative team between my department and Statistics Canada, where we actually were able to provide an operational type tool for decision making on crop production and looking at sort of crop production through the growing season. And that won a National Innovation Award. So that was a great success moment. I also spent several years writing a book. So for those interested, there's a book, I think you can get it online as a free PDF. If not, it's probably through your library. It's on future sustainable ecosystems, where I put a lot of my ideas into that. And again, that was an example of, as a government scientist, you can get involved in these different projects. And that's a lot of fun. I did a work study trip when I was exploring things more internationally, more like a sabbatical, and that was to Australia, working with the Department of Agriculture on big data in agriculture. So that's satellite, sensor, Internet of Things. And the idea was, how do we manage that type of information for modeling and decision making? And again, I think the work I'm doing right now is really fun on quantum science and looking at quantum machine learning. So, I think a lot of our approaches to the methodologies we use in agriculture and support for stakeholders in agriculture is really changing because we live in this world of data. Okay, a few takeaways. Facts on the job. I guess you'll hear more from Michelle, but I love it. And I see other people who join love, learning and growth. I'm not one of these people who can do the same thing over and over and over again. So I really enjoy, some things you have to do, like administration, but I love continual learning and growth. And I think within the government system, there's a lot of ability for you to receive mentorship from senior scientists and other professionals, and that's really helped. So it moves you along, gives you ideas. So there's a lot of room for creativity and innovation. You can serve on interdepartmental committees and all kinds of things to work on ideas. I love the work-life balance, the flexibility. Scientists work on what's called a work year. So we're not sort of managed every week, but we balance our various activities throughout an entire year. And I love the balance of doing theoretical work as well as the applied field work. So, it's a really good balance that way. And finally, I think, what I enjoy is we do write papers, in journals and books and that kind of thing. But I really love working with people and stakeholders in agriculture to really see the impact of your work. Sometimes it takes a while, but it's really taking your research and putting it in the hands of people who can use it and improve it. And so going from development to technology transfer. So I think for those who really want to take research into the realm of operational realm, it's a lot of fun, and you have a whole set of interdisciplinary people and teams to work with. Well, that's enough about me. I hope it gives you a bit of an idea of how my career's developed, and it's been a lot of fun. So, I have a few more years here, so we'll see what happens. But I guess maybe we'll go to the next slide, and I'll tell you a little bit about. So I'm a research scientist. So that's under, if you look here, it's under SE, I believe. There it is, scientific research, SE. But there's all kinds of different other professionals. We have mathematics, MA. We have, I'm just reading a few here, meteorology, MT, biological sciences. So in the Summerland Research and Development Center, there's quite a number of biologists, so BI classification. And we also have EG, which is the scientific support, and also physical sciences, PCs. So you have a whole range of different professionals. They don't all have PhDs, and some have masters, some actually do have PhDs. but a lot of them come with a varied training and experience. And, there's lots of opportunity to learn on the job as well. So I think there's an exciting a time in government for, as I said, we're working more on digital transformation in agriculture, and obviously climate change is not going away. So that's where we need people with good ideas and who can challenge these difficult problems. Qualification standards for science occupational groups. Well, I guess there's a couple things there. Yeah, so recognize post-secondary institution in a field of science in the position. I mean, I should go back. I was trained in my PhD in resource management and environmental studies, but a lot of the work I had done at that time was in fish population modeling and management. And so, I hadn't done a huge amount in agriculture, but that's where actually I got my job. So I think it's interesting to build on your expertise, and don't always feel you have to apply for something that's within your one domain. Science very much is interdisciplinary, so take your skills and see how they could apply to a new area or discipline of science. It's not always the case. I think it's particularly that way in environmental science, where there's a lot of interdisciplinary research. Sometimes that's not the case, but advanced degrees or specialized training may be required, yeah, for research or regulatory roles. So that's sometimes different that way between the regulatory side and research. And experience in scientific research analysis or technical operations is often considered. And I think that's where I would say that, I do a lot of hiring of students. I know my colleagues also do. So we really, rely on having summer co-op students to help out in the field and do modeling and other work that assists our research. And I think that's where there's probably opportunity for, early career undergraduates and graduates who are looking for opportunities that way. And I think there's also an exciting array of opportunities for volunteering to gain more experience. Okay, I think I'll pass it on there to, oh, I have one more slide. Okay, exploring a career paths in the government of Canada. So yeah, there's a number of subfields. Scientific research and innovation is where I work, and I do work with other departments as well. So environmental and climate science, climate change Canada. Health and biomedical science, not so much for myself, but other panelists will focus more on that. Definitely data science and modeling I'm engaged in. Science policy and advice, I don't do too much myself in, but I realize we have some policy folks on the line. Some work I've done with the Food and Agriculture Organization is science to support some policy making, but that's sort of limited in my sense. Technical operations and field work, yes, we do some work there. So, you can see that it's very intertwined in terms of your work. You might have a priority area, but you can often get involved in different pursuits. And what are the jobs in science in the Government of Canada? Well, I think there, there's the jobs.gc.ca. There's many different postings. I think one other way is just to inquire with scientists and others. Sometimes we see emails and receive those, and we have some open positions. Obviously, a lot of them are competitive or they have certain specifications, but certainly that's another way to reach out. So yeah, I encourage you to as well to volunteer where you can. Sometimes there's opportunities there as well. But I think our other panelists will highlight some of there in our Q&A as well. Okay, thank you so much, and I'll pass it on.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Nathaniel. Michelle?
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much, Sana, and the rest of your team for inviting me to sit on this really prestigious panel. I'm really honored to be here today. So my name is Michelle Hologroski, and I'm a research biologist with the Canadian Grain Commission. I started my career in science actually when I was really quite young, actually. So we had some guppies, and the guppies started having babies, and I wanted to save the baby guppies. So before that, actually, I was intending to be a singer. I was in choirs, and it was just funny because it's just like the things that happen while you're making other plans. And it was just one of those things that got me really interested in science. And 14 aquariums later, it was no surprise that I became a biologist. So my journey, I started my degree at the University of Winnipeg in 1995. I completed my degree in 2000 with a 4-year Bachelor of Science in Biology. My first job out of university was actually working at the Experimental Lakes area, which is field station that was run by Fisheries and Oceans Canada. And it was a really amazing dream first job out of university. I got to canoe and scuba dive for part of my job that was related to testing environmental impacts on the environment and just water quality and stuff like that. And it was just a really lovely, start to my journey in science. Since then, I've also worked for pharmaceutical companies, public health agency testing for measles, mumps, rubella, and chickenpox. And my current role is a research biologist testing for genetic modification in grain at the Canadian Grain Commission. So for those who might not know, the Canadian Grain Commission regulates grain handling in Canada and establishes and maintains science-based standards of quality in Canadian grain. So my work contributes to ensuring that grains meet rigorous domestic and international standards, which is critical for maintaining market access and providing high quality grains. I help farmers sell their grain by providing ISO accredited certificate for analysis for the samples that are going to other countries. This aligns with my career goal of making a positive difference for Canadians and the world. I am proud to be part of a team that values accuracy, integrity, and scientific excellence. In the early days of the pandemic, my lab was actually deemed essential due to the nature of the work that we do, because of our ISO 17025 accredited testing being deemed critical to market access. So, in relation to that, some countries won't even accept a shipment of grain if it's deemed genetically modified. So in the 15 years since I've been working in my lab, my role has evolved from an EG technician to a biologist, a research biologist, and our testing now incorporates new technologies. Everything from real-time PCR, which is like photocopying DNA for detecting low levels of genetic modification, to even more sensitive tests using digital PCR. So we're also investigating how AI, like Nathaniel said, could potentially actually make our testing more efficient, but we also want to maintain our strict standards as well. So we're still in the process of investigating that. In addition to my role in science, I'm also co-chair of the CGC's mental health awareness team and the leader of our wellness club that encourages staff to take a bit of time for self-care. Whether it's a lunchtime walk or a bit of time for meditation, we want to recognize people for taking the time for self-care. One of my favorite quotes related to this is, self-care is not selfish. You cannot serve from an empty vessel. And I think it's really important to recognize that, especially as public servants, that, our boss is Canadians and the Canadian taxpayer. So I think it's really important to kind of make sure that your baseline is maybe a little bit higher. And then one of the things that I wish I knew sooner in my career is the value of taking initiative to join committees, to gain skills outside of my scientific wheelhouse. This has not only helped me network within science and also outside of science, but it's also helped me shape the culture within my workplace to be more a positive one. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Michelle. Okay, so I think now we'll go ahead and have our next panelist introduce himself, Alex Tuin.
Hi, everyone. Thank you to Federal Youth Network for hosting this. I'm Alex Tuin. I live in Ottawa, the traditional unceded territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe. I did my BSc at University of Ottawa. In 2010, I joined Fisheries and Oceans Canada, DFO, and I've been here ever since. DFO's mandate includes ensuring healthy and sustainable aquatic ecosystems through habitat protection and sound science. I'm a science advisor at DFO's Canadian Science Advisory Secretariat, or CSAS, which helps produce the best possible science advice to support DFO's decisions. Science is just one part of decision-making. DFO considers social, economic, political, and management factors. But our role at CSAS is to make sure the science part is strong. I like to describe CSAS as part event planner, part publisher. We organize peer review meetings that bring together Canadian and international experts to evaluate research and generate science advice. Then we work with authors to publish that advice on DFO's website, making it accessible to Canadians. It's rewarding to see these products come to life and know they help inform real decisions. One unique aspect of our work is that we're not deep subject matter experts, but we get to work across many topics and bring together the experts on those topics, from marine mammals to invasive species to climate impacts. Our work also has visibility beyond Canada. Organizations like NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration in the US, and ICES, International Council for the Exploration of the Seas in Europe, have reached out to learn from our processes. Our other federal departments have even considered building their own peer review secretariats modeled after CSAS. For me, it's meaningful to help bring the right people together to create trusted science advice, and to know that what we build is recognized and used both here and internationally. Do I have time to describe a typical working day, key takeaways, etc., or shall we go on? We can go on to the next slide. That's perfect. This is pretty important stuff. So the point for this slide is not necessarily to read the text that's on this slide. This text was extracted from typical job competition posters from the jobs.gc.ca website. This is just some example text. Most text that outlines the qualifications for the job for which you want to apply will be worded similarly. You'll start to notice some similar wording as you look at multiple posters. So you'll start to see some themes. The point is to recognize where you qualify and where you might need some extra work. If you qualify for all the things and it's a job you want, submit your application. I'll give some tips in a moment. But if there are areas where you see that you need some work, you know that these are the areas where you can steer your attention. For example, if you're lacking French levels, you can work towards that. Pardon me. So some tips for analyzing these job posters. Read the language carefully. And if you determine that you qualify, you can answer the questions in the application using the STAR method. It's an acronym that stands for situation, task, action, and result. So when you answer the question, make sure you're mirroring the language of the question and describing what was the situation where you gained that experience or demonstrated that experience. What was the task you did for that situation? Action, what you did. You're narrating a story here. And then the R stands for result. What was the outcome or the resolution of the action and the task that you did to solve the original situation? So that's a neat framework that you can follow to answer questions, and that might help you a lot with your application and the interview questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Alex. That was awesome. Thank you. So now we're going back to Michelle's slide here for what do scientists do? Michelle, if you'd like to give us a brief explanation of that.
For sure. So what do scientists do? I mean, I can see that there's a wide variety of people participating. So I want to bring up an example that most people can relate to. Basically, when you do laundry, you're seeing detergent, but it actually says phosphate-free detergent. Well, what I find is really great about that in particular is it's because of a study that was done at the Experimental Lakes area where I used to work, that phosphate-free detergent is something that exists, because the science that was being done at the Experimental Lakes area helped shape policy surrounding this. So, as you can see from the slide, it talks about evidence-based research, and that's exactly what that is an example of. Basically using the evidence to see that, okay, well, with phosphate, there was basically a lake that they had where it was like carbon, nitrogen, and phosphorus, and carbon and nitrogen. So they could see that the side that was carbon and nitrogen and phosphorus actually had algal blooms. And so that's one of the reasons why you see phosphate-free detergents. So it's kind of a very relatable part of the way that science shapes our day-to-day lives as Canadians. So we provide scientific expertise and advice, design and conduct scientific research and investigations in fields such as environmental science, health, agriculture, engineering, and technology. And we collect and analyze, interpret data to monitor trends, assess risks, inform public safety, environmental protection, and innovation. And we collaborate with policymakers, regulators, and operational teams to ensure scientific evidence is integrated into program and policy development. So that's what I personally really like about it, is just the application of science into the average Canadian's lives, and communicating scientific findings clearly and accurately to diverse audiences, including decision makers, stakeholders, and the public, contributing to Canada's leadership in science and innovation through partnership, publications, and participation in national and international research initiatives. So, thank you so much.
Wow, Alex, Michelle, and Nathaniel, thank you. Truly, thank you for those fantastic introductions and for sharing your impressive career journeys, advice, and whatnot. So it's truly inspiring to hear how each of you have made an impact in your field. And I think you're not just experts in your area, you're also incredible role models for the next generation of public professionals. So thank you so much for sharing that. So now we're going to go to the question and answer part of the session today. So let's take a look and see what questions came in. And reminder, you can ask your question through the Q&A function and vote for the question you'd like answered. So let's see here. We have, oh, this one's a popular one. So do you feel that it's valuable to get experience in multiple fields throughout one's career, or focus most time within that same field and truly become an expert? Great, great, great question. Who would like to answer that?
Maybe I'll take the first attempt on I think it's a great question. And I mean, I thought of that early on when I was, starting university, and I wasn't great at math. I didn't feel like there wasn't something that popped out too much. I just kind of, not too bad. But then I went into it more intensively. So I think sometimes if there's an area that, maybe that you're not that great at, but you actually, when you put more time into it, something that develops. And having focused on sort of the nuts and bolts of modeling really provided me anyway with a core that I could apply to a number of different fields. It's not always that way. Things don't always transfer. But I think if you say, okay, what can I do? What are the technologies I can work with? What is the sort of big core knowledge that might be transferable across different jobs? That would be a good side for training. There may be a lot of things you can learn also on the job. So you need to sort of say, what do I need to focus on for training? But also just, where are in the job opportunities, what does it offer myself for growth? Right. So you have a balance. You don't always just walk into a job with everything there. There is, training and work experience that develops you further. So but I think the world is very interdisciplinary nowadays, and I think it's going to continue to be so.
Yeah, I agree. And if I can add, I myself have a lot of experiences in different fields in science and engineering. So if you look at my resume, it's kind of confusing. You don't know, what am I really an expert in? And that's okay, because, it makes you more well-rounded. And, it's about mainly the skills that you gain from these different jobs and different fields that help you get your dream job eventually. So yeah, definitely, you both are okay. I just think it's a matter of figuring out what works best for you and what you like, and that could happen by trying out different fields of science and whatnot. So next question we have here is, how do you balance being an objective scientist with following priorities of the government of the day, reflecting on previous PMs, Harper, and etc.? So how do you balance being an objective scientist with following priorities of the government of the day? Michelle.
So it's not always easy, but I find that with my lab being ISO 17025 accredited, we are bound by lots of international restrictions regarding gold standards related to our testing and that sort of thing. So it's really just the result is the result. So at the end of the day, it's my scientific integrity on the line, that sort of thing. Just the idea that, because we are ISO 17025 accredited, regardless of the party that's in power, the result is what I'm getting. So it's just, it might shape more the larger, focuses of some of the research, but in the lab, day to day, my PCR instrument will spit out a result. and it just gets recorded directly on the report. So
I like that. It's great. Thank you, Michelle. Next question. I have your question that's liked by 9 people. Okay. Is it possible for someone with social sciences degree to get involved in science or science-related careers with the federal government? For example, I'm a co-op student with a bachelor's degree in geography, environment, and sustainability. I really love physical sciences, but of course, I'm not a scientist, and I'm curious what type of careers may be out there within the government. Great question.
I might be able to offer a few tips on that that may apply generally and specifically. Everyone is going to be a unique person. You're going to have a unique set of qualifications and skills and assets. But the posters that are on the jobs.gc.ca website will be phrased relatively consistently. So if your undergrad degree is mentioned in the job poster as an essential qualification, and you already have that, that already gets you in the door there. So you can apply to that, assuming you meet the other qualifications as well. The funny thing is, jobs are very fluid and they evolve, and you never know what you're going to do with your life. Picture your 5-year-old self. You maybe wanted to do something, but that didn't quite turn out. Maybe you wanted to be an astronaut, but now you're working as a doctor, for example. So you never know what's going to happen. Apply for the job anyway, get in, and explore once you're in. I think there's lots of opportunities for externals who have not made it into the government yet to apply for jobs on the jobs.ca website. And there are internal jobs posted once you get in as well. So there's room to move around. You're not stuck where you are. There's always, it invites you and your spirit of exploration. So don't let your qualifications necessarily define you, pigeonhole you into a certain path or career right off the bat. You can always learn, grow, and explore.
Well said, Alex. Thank you. Great answer. Next question. How does one look for subject-specific careers in Government of Canada? I have a PhD in neuroscience and have research experience in psychology and linguistics and behavior change or intervention in academia, government, and not-for-profit sectors.
Again, this boils down to read the poster very carefully. Look for jobs where you qualify. So be sure to read the poster carefully, read all of the qualifications, focus on the essential qualification sections of each job poster. And if you have any of the qualifications that meet the asset qualification sections of the poster, that's an extra bonus as well. So that would probably help you as well, but definitely try and meet all of the essential qualifications before even hitting the apply button. Because it does take a lot of time to compose all your answers using the STAR method I described earlier, and waiting for the result, getting screened in, going for your interview, and all the other steps after that. Everything takes a while, so you want to be sure you have the best shot that you can before you invest time and effort, blood, sweat, and tears into a whole process, because it may take many months, be warned.
Thanks, Alex. Michelle, did you want to add something?
I just wanted to add one little comment, something that I found, especially as advice for people earlier, maybe in their career, maybe when they haven't gotten a PhD and all that other stuff. There's really a lot of value in the co-op programs where you gain a lot of hands-on experience in a department. And then in addition to that, for those who might not be aware, there's a program called Bridging, where people can be bridged into a position with the government department that they were working for. And that's a program that I wish had existed 25 years ago when I completed my degree. But honestly, if someone's looking at options like that, I would highly recommend the co-op program.
Agreed. Thanks, Michelle. Next question. I actually think this question should be answered by all of our panelists. How do you envision the future of the Government of Canada and the future of your profession? Great question.
Well, I haven't talked in a while. Maybe that's a really big question. The future of profession, I think, is, as I said, getting, much more interdisciplinary. I think the AI, I mean, and quantum computers on the horizon, I think is going to transform how we deal with information and data and accountability within our society, and how we bring information to make decisions is really going to change. And I think actually there's a huge role for social scientists in that. So, I suspect there'll be lots of changes in where the government looks to recruit knowledge, new people. I think what I was just going to say is that you really need to be motivated and passionate in your job, right? No matter what you're doing. And I think that's something, if you feel there's some area you want to investigate, and then I think really what the government's interested in is passionate, motivated people to work on behalf of Canadians. So now, did I fully answer that question? Maybe just say it again so everyone can.
Yeah, it's more of like, what
Which,
do you envision for your profession in the future?
yeah, I think I answered that a little bit, but there was another side to that question. What was the other side?
Oh, I think I lost the question. Oh, how do you envision the future of the government of Canada and the future of your profession?
Okay, Government of Canada. Yeah, I mean it's a big system, and I want we see a big system like that. It's really complex, right? It puts all types of diverse people with different perspectives together. But when you work inside the system, I think it's very people oriented. I mean, I think it's highly collaborative. It's amazingly diverse. You can pull different perspectives on issues, really inclusive. There's lots of, grounding in terms of values and ethics and policies to prevent harassment and all this. So they try to really make it a positive, world leading, employee leading workplace, right? And a safe workplace for everyone. So I think that's really where people can grow and in their own way and work with others most effectively. So what a system that looks maybe scary from the outside, I think really is very people oriented and friendly, supportive on the inside. At least that's been my experience. I hope it continues that way. Yeah.
Thanks, Nathaniel. Michelle?
I would say that, maybe in my 25 years of my career, I've been able to work for 3 different departments. And, working for the federal government has been a really great experience for me. I've done a lot of variety of different work. It's evolved quite a lot because of the technology is changing. And now a lot of people are talking about AI and that sort of thing. Also, too, there's going to be factors related to the environment, like climate change, that will also affect the work that we're doing. So I think what I really appreciate about working for the government is just the innovation, the variety, the people that really just, I feel like a lot of the people that work in federal public service, they're really driven to make a positive difference. And I think it's really great because, wherever the technology and the environment takes us, I think it's really satisfying for me to kind of feel that my life's purpose is being satisfied in my role with the government.
Agreed. Thanks, Michelle. Alex?
As for the future of the Government of Canada, I'm hopeful about the role of artificial intelligence and automation as virtual colleagues, though I'm not certain we're fully there yet. I use AI daily, but it struggles with some basic tasks. That said, the field is evolving fast. The typical dream of the near future is that we'll get to focus more on high-level thinking and planning, while AI handles the boring, repetitive tasks for us. For me, the future of my profession here in CSAS, the Canadian Science Advisory Secretariat at Fisheries and Oceans Canada, that could mean more time for creative work, like planning our peer review meetings, while we have AI helping to draft and publish our documents faster, so our science advice stays timely and relevant. That could be one possibility.
Thanks, Alex. Okay, so next question. Can you suggest any groups or pages to consult to look for volunteer opportunities to gain either work or subject matter experience in scientific topics in the federal government? We're going to give a moment for our panelists to think about.
Well, I know there's lots of sites out there. There's a research affiliate program for a lot of graduate level students and undergraduates, yeah, through the co-op opportunities. Maybe that's something actually after this session we can post a couple of those major websites. But I think again, it's don't be afraid to contact a scientist nationwide and ask what the opportunities are. And whether it's now or in the future, things sometimes come up through quarterly through the year, and then needs are identified. So yeah, always just reach out. We work for Canadians. So.
Awesome, thank you.
I remember FSWEP being in existence when I was a student, and I just did a quick Google, and apparently it still exists. It's FSWEP. If you type that into Google, it'll bring up the Federal Student Work Experience Program. That might be worth investigating.
Thanks, Alex. All right, next question. Do you have any advice for students in science who will be graduating next year into a difficult job environment? Great question as well. Michelle.
I would say just be persistent and be authentic. I think that there's really a lot of value in kind of hard work, work that maybe related to interdisciplinary committees, that sort of thing. So don't be afraid to kind of raise your hand for something that's not even necessarily science related, because it will help you network and it helps you shape the culture of your department, that sort of thing. Getting that first job is really a challenge. I feel grateful that, even though I wasn't part of a co-op program, I was doing some work with one of my professors at the university, and that led me to my first opportunity with the Experimental Lakes area, which was my dream job. So it was really lovely, kind of like the co-op program that I was alluding to earlier. So I think that there's a lot of value in those hands-on experiences. Maybe it's a short-term contract, but then you never know where that could lead down the road. So I think just have a positive attitude and try and network where you can, and just don't be afraid to roll up your sleeves and do work that's maybe outside your wheelhouse too.
Maybe I'll just add to what Michelle was saying. I think it's really, looking back my own career, I think it's really just getting noticed, and finding the opportunities in your circles and expanding your horizons. So time is always limited. I know we're busy, and you might be busy, bring in some funds. We're waiting for that opportunity. I think where it's possible nowadays with virtual meetings and that kind of thing, you could try to reach out to there's mentorship groups. Provide some volunteer assistance in your particular area, but realize that when you're applying for a job, it's not just the sort of essential qualifications. There's a lot that is focused on the competencies, which is like your ability to communicate, written and oral, teamwork, creativity, leadership. So what you want to do is say, okay, how do I need to develop my competencies, but also expand my network? And just to throw it out there, I mean, I'm incoming president of this new this International Environmetrics Society. We're actually thinking of possibly developing a youth section where we want new input and ideas from early career scientists and others. So that's a real opportunity to join an international society and connect with professionals, not just scientists, but professionals right across the world. So look for those societies, even if it's just a small little task they need help with. That's a great way to expand your horizons and develop your competencies, and that's what employers ultimately want to see.
Yeah, I
Daniel
agree.
touched upon some very good soft skills there. Do you have leadership abilities? Do you have initiative? Can you work well with others? Do you consider other people's points of view? Those are all extremely important. These are skills you can learn, and applying for government jobs is a skill you can learn. And given the time frame between the time you find a poster you love and actually, if you land in the job, could be many months or a year or two. So definitely, if I remember the question mentioning you're graduating next year, so start looking at the posters now, lay that groundwork, so that by the time you graduate, hopefully you're far enough along in the process that you're not waiting too long before accepting a job. So like I said, applying for government jobs is a skill you can learn. I figured it out through trial and error, but later had to relearn it when I applied for new roles. So definitely keep those skills razor sharp. A course that helped me was winning government job competitions, and that was hosted by the University of Ottawa's Professional Development Institute. Though I'm sure there's other courses out there as well that expand on the STAR framework for answering questions and other tips that I gave earlier. The key is to learn how the system works. Think of applying for government jobs as a bit of a game, and you want to learn how the rules work. Also, keep your options open by networking. I'm not great at that part, but I'm sure there are lots of resources and books to help you build networking skills.
Great
You know, there's
answer.
one little thing I'll just add. I think a lot of times I look at CVs and I talk with younger scientists and professionals, and what I noticed is one key thing: we talk a lot about what we did, right? We're so focused on the effort we put in. What we need to really make sure we communicate how what we did had a change and what that change was. So think about the impact. So next time you look at your resume, try to look at it from that lens. I think it will really, because that's what conveys to other people what the possibility, what the potential in hiring you in a way, right? It's not just what we spend our time in. Is it effective? Is it productive? Is it leading? Yeah.
Thanks, Nathaniel. That was also great. In interest of time, I might have to go through maybe 2 to 3 questions max. So I apologize to our panelists again and to our audience for potentially not being able to get through all the questions today. So the next question is, as people who have hired employees, what are some qualifications and or soft skills you've noticed early career scientists often lack? That's another good question. A lot of good questions today. Yes, Michelle.
Just in my experience working for different federal public service departments and also in private sector, I find that sometimes in science it attracts introverts. And so that it can be very hard for people to kind of, it's funny because some people mistake me for an extrovert, which is kind of funny, but in a scale of a bunch of very heavily introverted people, I look like an extrovert to them, but just kind of try and come out of your shell a little bit, be authentic, obviously, be yourself, but also, find the things that you're passionate about, like what Nathaniel was saying. Just basically, it's really important to kind of have a passion for what you're doing. And I think that at the end of the day, that passion will shine through. And I think that you'll have more of a zest for life. And I think it'll just kind of make you a better candidate overall. It'll just reflect well. So I think thanks.
Thanks, Michelle. Anyone else, or should I just go on to the next question? In interest of time, Nathaniel, you went off mute.
Yeah, maybe I'll just say, I think definitely what Michelle said there, and multitasking. I mean, that's something I've really had to learn. And yeah, delving into areas that you feel, get out of your comfort zone, and delve into areas that are a challenge. I find myself get very introverted when I'm looking at math equations and algorithms, and then like today, very extroverted in communicating. So I've had to learn that along the way. But that's the beauty of the government system, is you can go, have these conversations with your direct manager, and there's opportunities for training in those areas. So you can really expand fast. That's not true in a lot of jobs, right? And so the government really isn't there to support people ultimately. And so I've benefited from that. And then ultimately, hopefully the work I've done has benefited Canadians in turn. So.
If I may ask a question that I have actually that I think will benefit everybody here on the call as well today. What is one piece of advice that you wish someone has given to you or told you that would have really benefited you today now, looking back at your career? Like, what would you say, I wish someone had told me this, because I would have been somewhere else in my career today?
Perhaps I might be able to offer something here. That might be a little bit out of the box. Favoritism and nepotism exist. Just it's there. Sometimes it works for you. Sometimes it works against you. Your belief system will help you decide whether it's honorable to play that game or not. And I won't judge anyone for either path, but just know that it exists and you can choose to do whatever you want with that information according to your honor system.
Thanks, Alex. That was very honest. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Michelle.
I would say that the importance of just getting out of your comfort zone. So when I was doing my university degree, it was more in microbiology, but then I took on a role doing some scientific research in geography. And so that actually was what led me to my career dream job first out of university, where I was like literally jumping for joy, getting to work at the Experimental Lakes area. So, I mean, no surprise, someone that had 14 aquariums in their basement growing up worked at the Experimental Lakes area as their first job. And so I felt that, you know, if I had said, oh no, I only want to work in microbiology, then that opportunity would not have presented itself to me. So I think just be open to opportunities when they appear. And just, again, we were talking about get out of your comfort zone just a little bit, but still be yourself too.
And I'll just add, I think the thing that for me, I found really amazing and transformative, really, no matter what stage you're at in your career, is that it's not just about knowledge and ideas. I mean, you know, I think back to the time where you're examined over and over again for your knowledge. And yes, it's important, but at the same time, it's really about people, right? And connecting with people and the sort of the power of people-centered approaches, being highly collaborative, whether AI is, you know, having more role in our society or not, it's still going to rely on people and for guidance, human-centered approaches. So I think basically the takeaway message I would say is, don't sit back and just feel like you have to do everything. You know, it's connect with people, learn from others. You may have biases and things you never knew about, things that might get out of that comfort zone, but work together with others. And you'll find that if you have a good supportive support group, and that's again another thing for volunteering, if you can link with people with similar ideas, keep that motivation and passion. I mean, that ultimately will guide you.
Thank you. Thanks, Michelle. Thanks, Alex. Thanks, Nathaniel. Thank you all so much for being here with us today. Thank you for all the great advice, for all the great answers, all the great introductions. Everything was phenomenal. Thank you. And I think this is, I'm really sad to say this brings us to the end of the session today. So thank you all for being with us here today. And if you enjoyed the session, don't forget to check out the rest of the Career Showcase series happening every Tuesday this August. So the Federal Youth Network is hosting an in-person learning days and future leaders forum across the country throughout the year. So we've added new cities to our schedule, and you can find out if we're coming nearby your town or by checking out the list of cities and dates on our wiki page. Registration is free, so you don't want to miss this out. You really don't want to miss out on this opportunity to network and to meet with people in person. Personally, I've attended it a few times and it's amazing. I've built great connections, learned so much. It's really, truly inspiring. So I highly recommend it. Before we go, if you can please have like a quick poll just to get your feedback about how the session went. If it's a good use of your time. It's a quick yes or no answer. And then you can feel free to leave the session. And thank you again for joining us. And best of luck on your career journey. Stay curious, stay connected, and we hope to see you again at the future Federal Youth Network events. Thank you all.